Hello YouTube, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Kevin and this is the Red Pilling channel. So I want to talk about a term called populism. And it's a term that's growing and it's been a term I've been hearing a lot over the years. And the more I hear it and the more I see my views evolve, I do consider myself a populist. I think you could say that maybe everyone's a populist, but not really. There is I think specific standards I think you kind of have to have in order to for especially for a leader to be populist. I think you could say most Americans are populist because they want to be the ones represented and not special interests, or they want to be represented and not our government seeming to serve other interests overseas, which they do a lot. So no, that's so yeah. But I consider myself a populist, and here's what populism means. So populism is a political approach or ideology that claims to represent the common people against perceived corrupt or an out of touch elite. You have the people versus the elite. So we're what we call the middle class, the little guy they kind of call us, and then you have the elite people who are kind of upper class. And now you can say the upper class would be considered the wealthier, but also I think it really means people who millionaires, billionaires. A lot of times they're more in what you would call the more white professional class. And then you have the country club people, and then you have the people, which a lot of times there's white professionals, middle class that work in that as well, but there's a lot more blue collar people in that as well. So it just depends. But yes, the populace divide society in two groups: hardworking majority like farmers, workers, anyone who's middle class. Like I said, they're not just blue collar. There's white collar that work in middle class as well. Ordinary Americans. But then you have a small, powerful elite like politicians, corporates, and media intellectuals that have their interests rather than what the people want. They often use anti-establishment messaging that seems to go against the majority mainstream. There are notable examples of you could say candidates, presidents that might have been populist during the time. Obviously, Donald Trump would be considered a populist. You have people like, I think the truest populist would be Donald Trump and Theodore Roosevelt. I don't. You could maybe to some degree say, well, no, I was going to say Nixon, but no. But yeah, you could say Abe Lincoln could have more of a populist. I would consider Washington a populist. George Washington, Andrew Jackson. Now those are more right-leaning, I think, in modern understanding today, but you could say left-leaning could be considered Bernie Sanders, Obama, and I hate to say his name, but Zoran Mamdani, that communist mayor candidate running in New York City. Lord help New York. I will be doing a video about that too, so stay tuned on that one. That needs to be talked about because New York's in big trouble. So populism comes in two forms. Again, there's a scale. There's the right and the left. Are you more in the center? Are you more really out far right, really far left? I feel like anything is good if they always say going too far extreme is bad, but especially left-wing populism often, the left can go so far where they're also anti-market, and I'm not that far. No, I'm not that extreme. The market has its benefits, and I think overall it's a good, but we need to make the market a actual fair competition again and not cronyism. But what people understand as left-wing and right-wing populism is the left tends to focus more on the economics, housing, inequality, the rich pay too much, not pay enough taxes, And the right is more focused on the cultural, immigration, national identity, more nativist. You could say they're more on the American first. You could say Donald Trump is an example of that as well. Like I said, Donald Trump. So again, is it a bad ideology? I mean, I don't know if it's an. I mean, I'd say overall, it's. I mean, again, depends on where you take it. I think for the most part it's good, but you do have people who use it for bad, and there's bad versions of anything. Um, I don't I don't know if it's inherently bad or good, but it what I do like about populism is because it challenges the real corruption of inequality, but it can oversimplify issues and it demonizes opponents or undermine democratic norms. So some people don't like populism, they're afraid of it because they feel it causes too much division. But here's the thing, we need it. We need people that are not afraid to stand up against the mainstream. And you could argue, really, it's not, I don't want populism necessarily to be the norm. I want it to be the symptom to replace it with a new establishment that's about America first and that prioritizes that actually focuses on the kitchen table issue people care about and also protecting our culture. That's the establishment I want. I want an actual conservative culture part side that actually believes it. So yeah. Um, some say that populism can, I guess the bad you could say is that it can kind of put the envious mindset to be against the elite, like all the elites are bad. I think that's where left wing can get a little bit too extreme because they think just being having money it means you're automatically corrupt. That's not entirely true as well, either. Now, economic populism, I'm doing a little bit more emphasis on economic populism, is it focuses on economic grievances and pitting the ordinary people, again, middle class workers and small businesses, against perceived economic elite, big corporations, Wall Street billionaires, and global institutions. Here's the thing: I hate all of them. I am corporate skeptical. I don't like Wall Street at all. Wall Street has they're globalist, and all they care about is you know I mean, how do they get rich? It's kind of interesting. We don't even know how a lot of these people get rich in the first place. Then there's global institutions as well that don't share our values as Americans either. And I mean, they kind of lobby our politicians to give them special policies that they've enacted. I mean, some of these terrible policies we've had that made things hard, to, cost of living, special protections on things. That was all by lobby by a lot of these people. And it's made us poorer and it's also made us less free as well. So yeah, I can't stand these people. So I think to some degree populism is good and I think it is the future going forward. I guess the question is um what version of it do we get? I think we need to be more on the right version of it, but we have to address the economic concerns before the really far left capitalize on it and then we lose our country and make things worse than it ever has been. So if we lean on to the Republican side, we have to put this difference between petty issues like what's your view on Israel instead of actually running on these kitchen table issues that people care about and unite to actually defeat these people actually, or because I don't know if there's interest in that though, because the Republicans hate populism too. They'll tell you how much they hate communism, but they don't really actually message this. So I'll tell you more about Mamdani in my next video about why I think they failed and why I don't think they can stop them, but that's for another video. But here's an example. An economic populism claim is the rich get richer while everyone else struggles. Corporate power, big business controls government, exploits workers. Globalization, trade deals, and offshore destroy local jobs. Financial elites, banks, and hedge funds are bailed out while people lose homes. Okay, those are my beliefs, and that's what Trump is. Bring jobs back. Part of that is keeping them here, but also the tariffs, which is interesting. These people claim to be popular, especially on the left, but they hate Trump's tariffs. What do you think the tariffs are designed for? Is to protect our jobs. Corporate power, yes. I do think there is exploitation in big companies. And you do have big business that controls the governments. I think it's kind of what you call, I think that's considered corporate fascism. It's not, there's ownership, but I think they call it cronyism, where the government and big business are colluding together. That's the problem. Yeah, the central banks is a huge problem. Why people lose their homes. The hedge funds are bailed out. Why people lose their homes. I mean, that's a real problem, and that's a lot of stuff that's been happening in New York. And that's, I hate to say it, what really has paved the road for people like communists like Ma'am Donnie to prey on people for. I mean, these people destroyed New York. These cities are destroyed by these governors, mayors, and former presidents, and look at what we're dealing with. So it's a problem, and we have to hold these people that have paved the road for this. We wouldn't need populism if they would just do their job. They would actually represent us. So again, I kind of a little redundant, but I'm just making sure I read all the points so they're clear. So again, left wing is more on billionaires, banks, and multi corporations. So that's usually more Bernie types and Mom Donnies. Higher taxes on the wealthy, break up monopolies, stronger labor unions. Well, here's my thing with this. Higher taxes on the wealthy don't work. That's always the same talking points, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Mom Donnie's literally proposing taxing wealthier neighborhoods by a enormous amount, and you're only going to risk these rich people to leave. So then who's going to pay the taxes when those rich people leave? It's like, so that I don't think works. And if you're talking about, and again, they never define what wealthy means. What's wealthy? See, that's why it doesn't work, because it's a confused policy. So I don't know. I kind of like Trump's proposal. Where he kind of, when he was talking about wanting to eliminate income tax. I believe it was eliminating income tax from people who make, like, was it 125,000 or less, but then maybe raising the tax on the wealthy. I think he means like people who make over that a little bit to offset it, because you have to get some offset somewhere. That might make sense, but like this, we got to tax them 50%, and these capital gains tax and wealth tax. No, that doesn't work. And plus, billionaires, if you're talking about billionaires, they don't make a traditional salary. So, and they know our system. So even if they did, they'll find a way to not pay it. They always do. And that's the problem. And who do you think are some of the people who do it? These Democrats. So now I do support breaking up monopolies. That's kind of left-wing leaning, but I agree. I guess it depends on what you mean by unions. I am pro-union, though. I have some experiences on why I'm pro-union, but that's maybe for another time. But I feel like we need some representation because, for example, being fired, you don't have any representation if you're in a pure right-to-work state. So I feel like without union protections, you're even more likely to just be fired without having a chance to defend yourself, because in right to work say they can fire for any reason. So I think that's a con where I think they do. But I think if it's special unions, like don't agree they should be using our funds using the dues to lobby politicians, which is a problem. They should be using them on their workers. So that needs to be fixed. I agree. No free college. We should not be forcing taxpayers to pay middle class taxpayers. In fact, most populists are against that. Actually, I mean, it's a tax on middle class. I'd say the only thing that makes sense for free college is maybe local. If the locals want to make the community college for the local, maybe, but that should not be a nationwide thing. And healthcare, uh, that has to be a whole separate one because it's, I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on the healthcare one because it's our system's so broken with the current system, but the current system they propose with the current system and the ones they want to propose will make it worse. So it's, I don't know how to respond on that one very well. So I have to come back to that one. But writing populism is more on tariffs to protect local industries and corporate welfare, deregulation for small businesses. That's mostly my populism. And obviously I do agree with breaking up monopolies. We have too much power. Disney buying off all these companies, these conglomerates, you know, ESPN buying more of the red zone for sports. I just no, it's we're supposed to be capital. It's supposed to be actually be competition, and we only have these small. So you can feel like tyranny on itself. So um obviously right wing populism, economic populism is supposed to be globalist corporation trade deals and crony capitalism. See, that's what the Republican Party has to do. They need to attack crony capitalism, but they don't because a lot of the Republicans that pretend to be MAGA sometimes are crony capitalists. They are owned by these cronies. So it's why do they hate populism? Well, if they're owned by these people who want it to keep it this way. I mean, you have the only people who are not, the only people I respect in Congress who I feel are not bought by big donors and who actually do support it may be Trump, Vance, JD Vance. You have MTG. You have which is Marjorie Taylor Greene. You have Thomas Massey. You have Ron Johnson, and then maybe Rand Paul. I mean, I have some issues with Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. They're complicated, but they're very sincere, and they're actually more America first on those type of things. Because, Paul and Massey would be considered libertarian, but they might be populist in some ways because they believe in ending corporate welfare, deregulating. The problem, yeah. So yes. So they're populist on things like that because why are we giving these corporates welfare when they're that big? No, that's not right. Here's an example, Donald Trump. China's killing us on trade, cut taxes, workers, and anti-NAFTA, fair trade deals. That's populist and that appealed, and that's why Donald Trump won. So unless there's also a thing called the economic populism, which is something Tucker Carlson, he's probably the most populist voice on the conservative right. Maybe Steve Bannon is another one. It's called free market populism, which is a right-leaning strain of economic populism that combines anti-elite rhetoric with pro-market, pro-entrepreneurship, and anti-capitalist progressive policies, which is where I stand, basically. Because an example would be the economy is rigged against regular people by powerful elites. Well, think about that for a second. I agree with that. I mean, who are the people that are really... It's a rigged market because guess who? It's rigged because look who they hate the most. They hate plumbers. They hate farmers. They hate the people, the plumbers. Again, plumbers, truckers, farmers who grow our food, who fix our bathrooms, who fix our cars. Welders who, build our buildings with metal. I mean, anyone else? I mean, what other big ones, other important people out there? I mean, they look down on these people. It's like, and then yet you have these other like liberal arts. I mean, that's most of our funding incentivizes liberal arts rather than incentivizing these actual trades and jobs that actually provide something, and yet you're having these elites that are prioritized, that would not thrive in a fair economy, because guess who thrives? You have these radical, insane ideologue counselors are the ones that get all the money. How does that work? Because it's a rigged market. It's government, it's system that government favoritism. Yeah, it picks winners and losers. Bailouts. I don't like bailouts. Regulatory capture. I mean, big company, corporation lobbyists. Now here's a core narrative. Free market is great, but the game is rigged by corrupt politicians and crony corporations will drain the swamp, cut red tape, and let regular people and small business thrive. Yes. In fact, I don't know if you guys know this, but small businesses actually do pay more taxes, I think, than a lot of the corporates. A lot of corporates have been actually do. I think I've seen some facts on that before, but that's crazy. So yeah. So anyway, I don't really need to go on more. I kind of was redundant in a lot of stuff, but it just basically continues to, it kind of just goes redundant on stuff I already read. But that's basically what I stand for. You could argue that free market free market populism could be what you would call, they're pro-capitalist, but they're anti-cronyist, using populist anger to push libertarian reforms. So you could argue maybe that's what Massey kind of is. So, but the problem is a lot of the libertarians, which libertarianism is such a broad ideology as well. But I mean, yeah, if you really want people to believe that capital is the best economic system to lead people out of poverty, we have to defeat this cronyist stuff, because cronyism is so bad right now that it kind of feels a little bit like communism. Things are so high, you can't buy stuff. I mean, well, this, you can buy stuff. I mean, there's still food at the store, but it's a lot more expensive. Thing with communism is you may have to stand in line. That's where it's worse at. But it's like, still though, it should not. To me, it should not cost $7 to buy a case of soda, or wrong bag of chips, or $10 to buy a case of soda. I mean, yes, maybe you can afford it, maybe, but should it be that much? No. So, but at least with capitalism, you can at least buy something. I think communism is still eviler than even cronyism, but cronyism is making people think communism is the answer that you're seeing in New York right now, and that's the problem. So anyway, that's what populism is. I think it's an important mindset to have, because I think that's the future, whether we like it or not. That is where the society is moving towards, whether it comes in a right-leaning form, a more center-right, center-left, or, but I hate to say it, because the left is extremely radical, especially, it's going to come in a more communistic way we don't want to go to, because that would be worse than what we actually have now. So that's not the answer. So anyway, that's all I have for today. For now, I just wanted to thought I would explain what populism means. But anyway, if you like this video, please like. If you have anything to comment, and let me know what you all think. Please comment at the bottom. If you like this channel, please subscribe and hit the notifications so you don't miss another video. The Red Pilling channel out.